The Flash, the fastest man alive. But how fast can I get through the entire show? From series premiere to series finale, let's watch as I break down, review, and rank every episode of This is one of the best episodes of the entire show. From the start, the pilot just works on every level to create a perfect introduction to the series. It's literally no wonder why the series has gone on to be the final piece of the Arrowverse, because it always had the most to love. It's not as good as the pilot, but I think it's still a solid time. I think the main plot is rather weak, but the character stuff is solid enough to carry the episode, even if I think the metahuman they picked is really bad. It's really cool how these early episodes expand on the supporting cast as much as they do. I do think the downside is the main plot never feels as impressive as the pilot, and Barry often feels a little sidelined. Like in this episode, it just doesn't feel like he's as important. And I think the mist is kind of whatever. But it's really cool to see that the ensemble nature of the show was really in its DNA from early on, and it's really cool to see individual character episodes kind of like this, where Barry can still be the main focus, but they do a lot to develop characters. If I had one major issue with this episode, it's mainly the melodrama. I think Barry's little spat with Cisco and the team is really underdeveloped, and it feels a bit like an afterthought, which just makes his response feel a bit annoying to watch. Joe and Eddie's drama fares a bit better, but it's still not great. That being said, they finally got a great main plot again. Snart is fantastic, and the final set piece with Barry saving the person on the train was utterly great. I also like that this is the first time Barry failed to save a person in the show. It's definitely the best episode since the pilot. Even if I have a few tiny issues with the drama, I really do like this one. 90% of this episode is fantastic, and then the melodrama with Barry and Iris really blows. I think it's a little crazy that people assault the show in its later seasons for having bad drama when season 1 is like this every episode. Like, the two of them just go back and forth in such an annoying way. Still, it's a fun episode. I really like the meta of Plastique, and I think the introduction to General Eiling is really, really cool. You know, some corny writing with the villain aside, this episode is a strong addition to the season. I love Joe investigating Wells, and the way that everything in the main arc is unfolding is still so rewarding. Like that one scene with him and Wells in the diner, really, really awesome. I thought that really did a lot, and I liked the ending of the episode a lot with Reverse Flash zooming in and doing everything. Maybe it's a little early, but I think it was properly paced. Eddie and Barry bonding is also really good. I just wish the show could nail these character bits and superhero bits like the pilot did, because it's always one or the other. We either get an episode that's really good with the character stuff, but kind of lackluster and cheesy with the superhero stuff, or we get something that really nails being a superhero show, and then the drama is just bad. This is a really cool episode. Talkman is awesome. I think having a little minor Arrowverse crossover is so cool, having a villain from Arrow show up. Blackout is great too, and I think the duo bottle episode format is so cool. Like the idea of having the same setting happen across multiple plots. I just really liked it, seeing everything with Talkman and CCPD and then Blackout in Star Labs. It was really cool. I also love how this episode does so much to show something is not right with Wells. He's clearly got something going on. The only major downside is Barry gets his powers back in a pretty lame way, I guess. And it is the first episode of Barry losing his powers, but it works the first time. I thought this one was really solid. Fantastic episode. Fantastic episode, honestly. Rainbow Raider is a dope rogue, and the crossover elements are so fun. I honestly forgot how nice crossovers were that didn't feel like the heroes had to save the multiverse. They just could be heroes and save the day. If I have any issues yet again, I guess it's the drama. Even the stuff between Barry and Oliver at times feels a little hokey and underdeveloped, but it was still a really fun episode. Yep, this is one of the best episodes of the show. It's such a smart episode of TV. There's so many conscious decisions and little details that are going to pay off in major ways at the end of the season, like the way Wells was getting his ass beat by Reverse Flash, or the confrontation between them all. It's so really cool, and the reveal at the end is so damn good. This is the first time since the pilot where the show feels like it's firing on all cylinders. Love this one. Easily the episode where the season really kicks itself into gear. I don't really have much to say about this one. The rogues unfortunately never quite got their due in the show, and I have to wonder if it's because episodes like this don't really inspire much confidence in the concept. It's still good, don't get me wrong, but it's really a step down if the show continued getting better every episode. This one just kind of feels like it sort of exists. It's alright. Hartley is a way better villain than I remember in this episode. This is great. The stuff with Wells was really cool. I love the climax with Barry and Harley. I think the idea of having sound powers fight against the Flash is really, really cool. The way this episode weaves in the Wells mystery with the wider public was really awesome too. I just think this is a great episode. It's a sleeper hit for me within the season. I didn't really think about this one when I think of my favorite episodes, but this one's really solid. I like all the character stuff in it as well. This silly one-off episode might be one of the best episodes of season 1 so far. I don't know what it was with this episode, but everything worked so well. Seeing Cisco and Caitlin investigate Ronnie, the stuff with Barry and Caitlin was really good, and then the metahuman was solid too. And the stuff with Henry and Barry at the end was just insane. Like, it was such a great scene. This feels like the first time, again, since like the pilot, where they've really nailed having great character stuff and really, really strong superhero stuff. I thought all of the Flash stuff in this episode was really good. Remember how in my review for just the last episode, I mentioned that when the show is on point with everything, it's really good. It's quite ironic that the direct next episode has everything be some of the best work the series has had except for drama. The Iris, Barry, and Linda stuff in this episode is so stupid and so bad. Barry has to leave mid-date, and instead of saying he has to do cop stuff, he just stumbles around and makes an ass of himself so that the plotline can have some stupid pepper-eating resolution. And then there's Iris, who bafflingly can't figure out if she likes Barry or not. Meanwhile, the story with Firestorm is such a great cap-off to the build-up that's been going on since episode 8. Don't get it twisted, I do really enjoy this episode because of the Firestorm stuff. The background plot with Cisco and Joe investigating the night Nora died was also incredible. These two plots are some of the best from the series so far. I just wish that the relationship drama wasn't as poorly thought out and bad as it is. It's almost unwatchable at times. This one's great. It's a solid wrap-up of the Firestorm arc. While it's not quite as compelling as the last episode, Firestorm has a lot of cool stuff to do in this episode. It's a little annoying because he just kind of leaves at the end after like 14 episodes of build-up. But, you know, it's whatever. I really like this part because this is when the show really gets going and I get locked in for the rest of the season. This is a fairly stock episode of the season until the final 20 minutes really blow you away with being some of the best television that the CW has ever produced. Do you know how insane it is for a season of a show to unveil literally every single one of its cards, only to immediately undo it, and it actually works? Like, I stand by everything I said in my season-long retrospective. Like, you should be mad that the show did this, but the fact that it works is crazy. Brilliant episode, honestly. Like, aside from some relationship drama, really, really good episode. This is a pretty great episode for the most part, but my friend would be upset with me if I didn't point out the fact that Barry gets out of a complicated romantic situation by Caitlin making up something called lightning psychosis. Anyway, the rogues are cool. I love how this episode handles the fallout of time travel, and at the end it's Barry putting the pieces together. It feels like, even though we completely undid the last episode, it still feels like the season is moving along at a decent enough pace, and I think that's really, really cool. The silly little trickster episode is one of the most important of the season, and it's really, really good too. Mark Hamill absolutely kills it as the trickster. I love the information that we get about Wells. I love the final climax with everything. It's such a fun and enjoyable episode, while also being super pivotal to the overall arc of the season. I really like this one. Every time we watch it, I get excited to get to this part of the season. This has always been my least favorite episode of season 1. And yeah, that hasn't really changed much. It's really just poorly placed within the season, and the main plot isn't good, not to mention I still think the drama is terrible. Ray is a natural fit for the show. I don't mind seeing the Atom on here. I just don't think that this is the point in the season where you do an episode like this, and Brie Larson is not good. She's not any better on Arrow next season either. Damn, Cisco is really out here getting half chubbed over some pictures of the Black Canary. Great episode. I love seeing the investigation in Starling City. I think that was really, really cool. And the metahuman that can shapeshift was pretty awesome too. Just an overall stellar episode. Eddie is such a great character by this point in the season. I love him. Oh man, this show is so damn good. I love Thawne so much. Seeing the way that everything comes together, it was like a brilliantly designed puzzle, and his big reveal at the end where he's on top of Star Labs monologuing was so awesome. The way that this episode is able to just essentially relay all the information that we got in episode 15 again, but make it feel compelling is crazy. And the past 5 episodes since 15, we've made all the same strides that we took to get there. and it's always felt so consistent and enjoyable. I don't understand how they did it. This is one of the single best paced seasons of TV that's like over 10 episodes that I've ever seen. It's insane. You know, every time I watch season 1, I really want to appreciate this episode more, but I never can. It's such a pace breaker. It's a good episode, but it's one that I'll never understand why they put it here. Grodd is fine, the payoff with Eiling is cool, but it's just such a weird decision to put this episode right here. Like, it's close to the end of the season. It's almost a penultimate episode, and then you just slap Grodd in and nothing. After that reveal at the end, crazy. The Flash season 1 ends off with a fully formed Rogues team and then does nothing for it with the remainder of the show. Anyway, this episode smacks. Seeing Oliver show up at the end and fight alongside Firestorm and Barry is just so cool. It's the kind of superhero stuff that I really lived for in this show. It's one of the things I'm sad they stopped doing later on the show, which is these kind of mini little crossovers that happen that make the universe feel connected even when it's not the end of the world. Really, really cool. Imagine being a superhero show and then you make your finale 42 minutes of people talking, and yet it's one of the best pieces of superhero media. They knocked it out of the park in this episode. I genuinely don't think people would respect and love season 1 as much as they do if it wasn't for this finale. It's really the thing that ties everything together. The scene with Barry and his mom at the end, everything Thawne is doing, the conversations between all of the characters. It's such a calm and introspective episode and a perfect way to end off season 1. I really love this one. It's a great opening season. There's a lot of drama that can sometimes sour the experience, but the overall collection of 23 episodes is surprisingly consistent, and there's so much to enjoy here. From the villain being great with Thawne to the way that pacing never really feels like it's letting off the brakes despite having 23 episodes of story to tell. Just an overall awesome season. Easily one of the best of the entire show. Wow, this episode is mid. I like some of the character stuff, but it's such a downtrodden and lukewarm opening to the entire season. The first season's cliffhanger has you filled with so much energy, and then this episode just delivers way too low-key of an opening. I would have actually liked to see them repairing the city and see Barry go around doing his job like that. I think it would have been really, really cool. They talk a lot about how Barry's been repairing the city, but I wanted to see that. I don't really like the time skip at all in this season. I always remember episode 2 being the better premiere of the season as far as how it sets stuff up, so hopefully Flash of Two Worlds holds up to my expectations. Yeah, this should have been the premiere. Cut a little of the filler out at points and could put some scenes in from episode 1, and it's a lot better of an opener than what we actually got. The scenes with Jay are great, and I think the mystery around Zoom is pretty neat. The climax really, really slaps. Unfortunately, it's still got those filler moments, and it still feels like we wasted too much time to get here, so not a perfect episode, but it's really enjoyable. I've really underrated this episode in the past. Despite a pretty terrible plot with Iris's mom being secretly alive, I think this is a great episode. I'll never forgive Legends of Tomorrow for taking Snart away from us because he's a fantastic foil to Barry. Every scene the two have together in this episode is absolute magic, and it's just criminal that he's gone. I love seeing Barry go undercover as a criminal to work alongside the Snarts and try so hard to keep innocents alive. It's a great little episode. Alright, okay, I think this is the first episode of the show so far that's actually bad. I didn't used to think that. I used to think it was just mid, but it's taken me like 7 hours now to finish this episode because I kept getting distracted. The writing here is so forced compared to what we usually get. So much dialogue is just needlessly expository, and the episode never settles into a rhythm. Not to mention the entire thing is clearly just world building set up to Legends of Tomorrow. Just get rid of it. This one sucks. And we're back to quality. This one's great. Jay and Harry's dynamic is really fun. Harry in general is really fun, and I like what he adds. This episode works so well at building tension for Zoom while also having a fun storyline with Dr. Light. I think having the Earth 2 Dr. Light is really, really fun. And I like the way everything comes together. It's a great episode with good build up to Zoom. This is what I'm talking about. Season 2 has finally stopped pulling its punches so far, and we get Enter Zoom. First episode of the season that reminds me that the show goes hard as hell. Everything's firing on all cylinders. It's humorous, heartfelt. Zoom's entrance is actually terrific and terrifying. For as much as I don't care for this villain later on, they really, really nailed this introduction. This is everything that people love about Zoom is from this episode. It's no wonder why they always talk about this episode when they praise Zoom, because it's a great episode, but it's sort of just confined to this one episode. I used to really dislike guerrilla warfare, but on a rewatch, I think it's solid. Very character-driven stuff with Grodd, and I think everything goes in a decent enough direction. It's a little annoying that Barry's back is broken and he doesn't have speed or whatever, but it's an okay time. Oh man, this crossover sucks. It's full of nonsense writing, and everything moves at such a bad pace and feels rushed. Despite a lot of the season building up to this crossover happening, it never really feels purposeful. Cisco and Kendra's relationship is half-baked, and it doesn't work as a dramatic core of the crossover, and Vandal Savage blows the stink of Arrow Season 4 over to this episode. In fact, it just feels like Arrow Season 4. It just populates the entire episode. You can't escape from it. It's just bad. What a surprisingly solid episode. It's kind of a poor mid-season finale since nothing of note really happens to push the story forward. Like, compare this to Season 1's Episode 9, and it's a world apart as far as making the story move. It actually feels like the mid-season finale episode was Inter-Zoom as far as the plot goes. But it's okay here. I like the rogues. I like the little team-up that happens. It's a fun Christmas episode. I have a good time. A lot of strong character moments, too. I think Patty's arc is pretty well developed in this episode. I really still like this mid-season premiere. It's a fun episode with a ton of great things set up for the remainder of the season. I usually hate the relationship drama in the show, but the stuff with Barry and Patty is surprisingly really good, and I feel like season 2 really starts settling into a groove in this area. Still not much movement on the Flash part with Zoom and everything, but you know, the character stuff is working and the one-off episodes are fun enough. Verse Flash really did return. This episode's awesome. I love the direction season 2 starts to go in here, even if it basically just turns into a season 1 rerun. I really like seeing the reverse flashback. I think the explanation for it is a little convoluted and creates some continuity issues going on down the later chunk of the show, but it's a really, really fun episode. I love seeing Barry have to reconcile with the fact that Dawn is still out there. I love their conversation together. This is just such a really enjoyable one. I'm surprised how much I liked Fastlane. I always remember it just being alright, but the stuff with Wells in it is really cool. I like seeing him reconcile the fact that he's about to betray his newfound friends. And the stuff with Wally and Iris is pretty great too. I really think Wally starts to develop in this episode. Tar Pit is just kind of whatever, but he's not worse than any of the season 1 or 2 metas so far. Overall, it's just a great episode with a lot of solid build up to what's going to come next. It feels a little bit like a flash in the pan filler episode, but those can still be enjoyable, and I think this one was. This is very much like the Out of Time of season 2 because it really pushes the season in a major direction and kicks everything up a notch. I love the stuff on Earth 2 with all the doppelgangers. They're so fun. I usually don't care about Earth 2 and multiverse stuff, but The Flash was ahead of the curve doing this in 2015 before the entirety of superhero media and media in general was overcome with the tropiest multiverse stuff they could shit out. I love the scene with Barry talking to his mother from this Earth. It's really fun. Joe's death is emotional. It's awesome. Even though the Earth 1 Geomancer stuff with Jay drags it down a little, I can't deny this is one of my favorites of season 2. This episode always reminds me of why I still really like season 2 despite all the issues that I have with it, especially in its first half. This two-parter does so much to add some much needed urgency and gumption to the rather plodding Zoom plot. Zoom is great, and the introduction of the Man in the Iron Mask is really, really fun, and I even like the stuff on Earth 1 too. It's all kind of working together. This is the first episode that Zoom's had a major presence, and he's still pretty good, even if I feel like he was a little better in Enter Zoom. He's solid. The talking shark episode goes so hard. This is like the third great episode in the row, and I love this episode. It might actually be my favorite of these past 3. Not only is an epic shark a great villain of the week, but the drama and everything around it is so strong. It really feels like there was a seismic shift after the Earth 2 stuff. While I don't necessarily love the Flash going in a darker, more moody direction, it kind of feels like it was warranted here, and this is the start of the show going in that direction. Unfortunately, it sticks with that until the end of season 3, but right now I kind of like it. And the Zoom reveal at the end is still so well done. I remember how shocked I was February 2015, the night this episode aired. It was crazy. Unfortunately, I know it didn't go anywhere good, but it was crazy. Trajectory herself can be a little bit of a silly villain at times, but overall this episode does a lot to progress the main story way more than you'd expect. I love how it's a filler episode dedicated to V9. It's just all around a great time. It's a subtle like PSA for being anti-drug. Okay, it's not very subtle, but it is a PSA episode, which I think is kind of funny to have in The Flash. And I like how Barry's able to piece everything together naturally by the end. It's a pretty solid way to uncover Zoom's identity. I like it. This episode is awesome, man. I mean, it's called Flashback, right? Like, the Flash go back. What more can I say? He goes back to season 1, episode 11. He talks to Thawne. There's now time demons called time wraiths. It's epic. It's just a really, really fun episode and such a cool idea for a filler episode that you can't really get mad at it happening. This is just great. Season 2 has really, really settled into like a very similar rhythm to season 1. I'm loving it. Oh. Yeah, this one's not it, guys. I'm not expecting grade A television from a CW show about a character called The Flash, where he's fighting a dude in black leather with a demonic voice named Zoom. But I'd like for the storyline to at least not make me feel like I'm watching the world's dumbest superhero team. Zoom comes in wanting to kill Wally or else he'll take Barry's speed, but the fact that Zoom's here in the first place is kind of stupid because Barry literally willfully opened the door to Earth 2, and I get it, he's a hero, he doesn't want to just abandon Earth 2 with the monster that is Zoom. But man, sometimes it really feels like everything that happens after this point is Barry's fault, and the show doesn't really even do it in a cool, like, oh, Barry, you know, was too up his own ass and had too much of an ego that he damned people, but like, it never goes that far. It doesn't even play with Barry's morals in that regard. I don't know, just the way that everything plays out with this one, with Barry giving up his speed with no backup plan, it never felt well thought out or smart. It felt like the writers just needed it to happen, so it did. I used to really dislike this episode, but I think there's enough to sort of enjoy. The main plot still sucks, and the climax is way too silly where they just make a guy die. Also, they just make the guy die. What happened to saving people? Like, he just dies. I just thought about that. That's crazy. Caitlin and Killer Frost's discussion is solid on Earth 2, and Barry not having a speed is kind of cool, seeing how he reconciles with it. There's an interesting status quo here with Zoom on Earth 2 having one and Barry without a speed. But by the end of the episode, Zoom is on his way back to Earth 2 and they have a plan to bring back Barry's speed, and it's on... Like, okay. I mean, this is probably my favorite Barry loses his speed plot after season 6, but like, give it some time to marinate, guys. Why are we just speeding into the next part? Speeding, get it? While I've had my issues with the direction the Zoom storyline has gone since the Earth 2 stuff, this episode makes up for that, I think, with the powerless Barry arc being really cool. I like seeing Barry struggle without his powers, and the build up to his decision to get them back is really well done. The Cisco and Rupture stuff is fantastic too, and I think the climax of the episode is awesome with Barry just disintegrating. This is the one where I really feel the tension of everything going on with Barry and the team and Zoom's invasion of Earth. It really feels like things are moving in a really strong direction. Wow. What an emotionally stirring and compelling episode about Barry finally moving on past his mother's death and accepting his life how it is. I truly hope the finale of this season doesn't completely undo this character development in its final scene for the purpose of a shock value cliffhanger. I'm not a big fan of the elements in this episode, but it's almost emblematic of everything to go on with this season. Things sort of just happen, they don't have any room to breathe, and then we move on. I do think Zoom is weirdly at his most enjoyable here since episode 6, Enter Zoom. He's really campy and dumb. Teddy Sears cannot do menacing, so the fact that they move into this weird kind of goofy, haha kind of villain direction, it honestly works, and I kind of like that the way that he handles himself. It's a lot stronger than I expected it to be. Unfortunately, Joe, this episode is very frictionless, very dull, very bland, and doesn't really have the gumption that you want in a penultimate episode. Everything feels a little too clean, a little too cut and dry, and the ending with Henry being killed just always felt out of nowhere to me and completely pointless. The race of his life, the season 2 finale, is a lot like season 2 as a whole. It's confusing, manically paced, and incoherent combination of a lot of fascinating ideas that I wish ended up being better than they are. Like, this season does so much. There's even a Crisis on Infinite Earths analog in here with Barry running around the Magnetar and dying, you know, his time remnant dying. Having Barry make a time remnant is cool. A lot of cool ideas, but it's just, and then the way Zoom is defeated is Again, kind of cool, but the way it always felt hollow to me. I don't know. It's never given time to breathe. The team being with Barry and being at odds with him is cool, and I like how it all shakes up by the end, but I hate the decision Barry makes at the end too with Flashpoint. It completely invalidates the runaway dinosaur, and it's always left the end of season 2 in this weird state of limbo for me, where I like a lot of what the season does, but I can't get over some of the writing decisions that they make with the characters, and especially the way the climax resolves toward the end. Unfortunately, season 2 is way more inconsistent than the debut. There's a lot of solid moments here, and there's especially solid episodes, but the main story is way too convoluted and uninteresting. Zoom isn't a great antagonist, unfortunately, and the final 2 episodes sour what was looking to be an admittedly good turnaround for the second half of the season. You know, Flashpoint could have truly been great had it been at least 2 episodes. As it stands, I still weirdly think this is the best version of the story, even though I'm not a fan of the comic version. The same can be said for the animated movie too. Both of them are just way more dedicated to showing weird DC Comics Elseworlds than they are at tackling what should be a pretty intimate story. What we get here isn't perfect, it's far too fast paced, but when it works it does a pretty good job of showing Barry realizing he made a mistake, and then the Thawne material here is also pretty good. I wish we spent a bit more time showing things going wrong rather than speeding through it. Still a solid climax emotionally and visually, and a great end to Thawne and Barry going back alongside each other. It's got good character work overall, and it makes me like the premiere enough, even if I do think it's a bit of a wasted premise. This is definitely a step up from the premiere. I like seeing the fallout of everything Barry did. A lot of the character drama is pretty good, and the stuff with Iris could have been better, but it's solid enough. I think the whole dynamic they place you in a feeling like something's off is kind of cool, even if I know that it doesn't really go anywhere too interesting. I think the stuff with Cisco could have been handled a little better, but you know, Claris and Alchemy are really cool. I think the climax is cool. Definitely a solid second part almost to Flashpoint. I would have preferred just 2 episodes, but it works. You know, this episode always teases me because I think they do a solid enough first 10 minutes to make me think the episode will actually be good this time around, but then they go and deliver some of the worst drama that I've ever seen and a terrible metahuman character. I guess Jesse and Wells being back is cool, even though it feels a little redundant now. I don't know. What an utterly harmless and inoffensive episode of The Flash. I have almost 0 notes for this episode. It sort of went in one ear and out the other. Mirror Master, just boink. He went in a mirror and then he left. I did enjoy the Choose Your Own Wells subplot. I did not enjoy the Barry and Iris drama about whether they should kiss in front of their shared dad. Monster is great, actually. It definitely struggles with some elements. Caitlin's plotline is pretty mad, but the Julian and Cisco and HR stuff is just so good. I really like how HR's hiding the truth and everything, and I love how it thematically ties into a big monster in Central City. Great episode. It's just a huge highlight in a season that I really start to dislike. Oh, this episode has a frustrating element to it that a lot of the episodes going forward have. They cram a random meta of the week into an episode that didn't really need it. This should have just been a nice build-up episode to Wally being chosen by Alchemy, but instead we spend time with Shade, one of the worst metas the show has ever tackled and one of the worst adaptations that I've ever seen of a character. The drama is pretty bad too, and I think where the episode shines is in the second half, but even then it's hurt a lot by Shade. This should have been an entire episode of using Wally to track down Alchemy. The climax is genuinely great and one of the best moments in season 3, so why wasn't that the entire episode? Just throw this one in the trash. It's so mid. Season 3 has a few diamonds in the rough in its opening half, and this is easily one of them. Even if Caitlin's descent into becoming Killer Frost is stupid and the character completely regresses the quality of the show in the next few seasons, I think the drama here is solid enough, you know? I like the confrontation at the end of the episode. I think it all ties together really nicely. Overall, a really strong episode that I feel like is stronger than it probably should have been. This is really fun. I like seeing Barry and Oliver team up together. I dig the chemistry and bond of the two of them. There's fun action. Huge step up from last season's crossover. Season 3 has been pretty rocky. Not much rockier than Season 2 was at this point, but pretty rocky. And this episode does a lot to finally push the Savitar conflict forward, and it's a fantastic episode altogether. Jay and Barry's dynamic is strong, Savitar's got a compelling enough backstory. For now. It's an unfortunate episode because it sets the season on such a strong path that I know it doesn't stick to going forward. This is a great mid-season premiere for the most part. There's some slow moments that keep me from loving it, but it's solid. I wish Plunder was a more interesting villain and the episode didn't spend as much time on some of the filler stuff. But I really like the drama of Barry knowing Iris is going to die and telling her that she's going to die. I think it's pretty interesting. Now this one's great. Like last episode, there's some filler stuff that keeps it from being a really high episode, and I want to give it a really high score, but I love this one a lot for its character work. HR gets a lot of great stuff in here, and the Iris character work puts the Iris gonna die storyline in an interesting direction. It's just a great episode, randomly in the middle of the season. I think this is one of the best of the season. This is conceptually one of the coolest episodes of the show. I like it. Metahuman from Flashpoint going after the people that wronged him in Flashpoint. I think it's pretty cool. But unfortunately, it is not executed very well. Having Cisco vibe Flashpoint is pretty solid, but the character moments just don't really work, and I don't really like the whole Wally and Barry competing over who's the cooler Flash. I don't know. The climax is solid. I think that's what saves the episode. But it really starts to feel like the characters are starting to kind of get into this trend of acting weird. And I don't know. I'm not really a fan of the drama so far this season. Yeah, this episode's not very good. I don't know why people like it. I really don't. The only thing keeping it from being outright bad is the actual gorilla fight scene is fantastic for a CW show, even if it ends anticlimactically. But otherwise, this episode really sucks. Most of it's spent in a jail cell, and it's just really boring. The drama with Jesse and Wally is so dumb back on Earth 1, and there's an actual scene where they debate whether or not to kill Cisco. I wish I was joking. They literally think about killing Cisco. I did not enjoy the second part of the silly Gorilla Grodd episode. The climax of this episode is where it all falls apart for me. It's just mindless action of three speedsters zooping, and then suddenly Solivar and Grodd have the most weightless fight ever, both visually and narratively. And then Barry talks down a CGI gorilla from killing another CGI gorilla, and the episode ends. It sucks that the episode starts off with such a nice and wholesome vibe because it's gone by the end, as the episode is filled with dumb shit like Barry defusing a nuke randomly as it's hurtling towards the entire city or something. Why is Gorilla Grodd using a nuke? It actually pisses me off how good the Savitar stuff is in this episode because the rest of it is pretty bad. I can't hate it because the climax is so good and Savitar is the best he's ever been, but wow, the drama of Barry and Iris is terrible. It's nice for season 3 to return to quality for a moment. This episode is a great sequel to last season's excellent The Runaway Dinosaur. It actually deals with the fact that Barry regressed to where he did in Flashpoint, and there are a ton of great moments, especially Jay's goodbye, despite the fact that I think this whole Speed Force prison is really stupid. Jesse just fights Savitar in a weird scene, which unfortunately means everything with Savitar kind of sucks. I don't know why that was in the episode. He even says, I have great plans for you, Jesse Quick, and then we never see said great plans. Despite all of that, I like this episode. Getting Wally out felt a little too easy, but seeing Ronnie, Eddie, and Stars is very cool, and Black Flash was pretty cool in his debut appearance. Duet's pretty good. Good songs, good joy, good fun, nice levity. I like this one. Abracadabra is a fantastic villain of the week, and the climax of this episode is one of the best of the entire show as they're going through the city. It's shot so well, the CGI is great, it's just a very impressive looking fight. Unfortunately though, the rest of the episode sucks ass. The melodrama here is really, really bad. The way this episode drags out the Savitar plotline is so annoying. And everything to do with Caitlyn arbitrarily becoming Killer Frost makes no sense to me. What a stupid episode, man. I don't get it. This is a great episode in isolation. Unfortunately, the way it ties in the main arc is not good. It's glorified filler, especially this late in the season. A Savitar reveal here would have helped, but they had to blue ball you yet again. Even when you've seen the season before and know who he is, the elongated mystery is still annoying, if not even more annoying. I really like getting to see how the characters react after Iris's death, but it's really not worth it for an episode that just kind of plods along. Fun enough, but eh. I actually like this episode a decent amount. It definitely should have come like 5 episodes earlier though, because now we only have 3 episodes to make the season storyline somewhat coherent and compelling. And unfortunately, I've seen the season before, and I know they don't do that. Look, this is a great episode. There's no denying that. It's got a ton of great emotional moments. It's funny. It's entertaining. It delivers on a ton of great, great moments for the show. But what the hell are we spending doing this nonsense 2 episodes from the finale? This is a cool mid-season filler episode after you've learned Savitar's identity and try and stop him, but we literally have to start getting up to wrap up the storyline. What are we doing? How fantastic of an episode is Infantino Street? So fantastic that even the utterance of calcified Speed Force energy can't sway my opinion. So fantastic that Cisco unironically saying he's hacking into the mainframe didn't make me bat an eye. Beautiful episode. Easily one of the best episodes of this entire show. It's insane what they cranked out here. You know how the entire season has been about how losing Iris will break Barry, destroy him? That episode is this for me. I'm broken. I'm alone. I'm forgotten. I'm becoming my own Savitar. Yeah. It's not good. Sorry to any season 3 defenders, but I still do not get what anyone sees in this season. Every character is woefully written, the main plot is incomprehensible, and the entire storyline ends with such a whimper in the finale, which is easily the show's worst episode up until this point. Savitar doesn't make sense as a villain, and I think this season is a huge, huge misstep. It literally can only go up from here. I used to really not like the season 4 premiere, but fuck it, this was awesome. I love the new tone. Immediately the show is way snappier and way funnier, and I think that really works after the dour, complete clusterfuck of season 3. I also used to be upset that it completely undid everything from season 3's finale, but fuck it, season 3 sucks, so let's undo it. Great climax too. I really love the Speed Force mumbo jumbo, and the Samuroid is such a cool idea. Just, I don't know, there's something so cool about this premiere. It feels confident and fun. I really like it. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only guy on the planet that likes season 4, and I know it's not true, but man, this episode's so much fun. The tone is a great mix of lighthearted and silly with a touch of dramatic flourish, and Barry and Iris's troubles are really, really well done and really well executed. I just think this one's really, really solid. It's got this air to it that feels very similar to the premiere, but also like they're still moving in an interesting direction, and I like the way that the Thinker is kind of opening and closing episodes. I think this one right here, Luck Be a Lady, is hands down one of the funniest episodes of the entire show. The comedy is on point. Every actor jumps from one joke to the next in such a great way. It's so snappy and great. Wally's send-off was very rushed in out of nowhere, and that's like the one slight on this episode. I don't know. I really like the way season 4 is feeling. It's like the best stretch of episodes so far since season 1. It's just such a nice tonal refresh for the show. Oh, would you look at that? Another awesome and extremely fun entry into season 4 of The Flash. You know, it's crazy the show is so hated because, again, I'm having a great time. It's probably the most consistently solid season of the show thus far, even better than season 1 up to this point. And I know that's crazy to say, and I know some of the later episodes don't feel that way, but I don't know, I'm really having a good time. Alright, Girls Night Out is not a bad episode. Is it heavy-handed? Yes. Does hashtag feminism make me cringe a little? Yes, but only because people saying hashtag out loud is cringe. But the main issue with this episode is that it's a Killer Frost and Caitlyn episode, and those are never really great. That being said, there's a lot to like here. I think Amunet is pretty fun. I remember her getting annoying, but I like her here, and I think the metahuman trafficking ring is a pretty cool idea, if not a little underdeveloped. I really like everything with the bachelor party, though. It's the highlight of the episode. Even people that hate this episode like that part. Seeing Barry go, "I'm the Flash," and talk about chicken wings. Great. I really like that part. This episode overall is solid, easily the worst of the season so far, but it's okay. Well, The Flash season 4 did it. It flew too close to the sun. I've been very nice to the season, maybe too nice, but they goofed up. This episode takes the funny, light, fluffy nature of the past 5 episodes and subtracts what made those episodes good, which was that they still felt somewhat grounded in the show's characters and mythos. This one's just way too silly. The opening's got like Ralph shooting a guy, or getting shot rather, by a criminal, and they use their superpowers in front of him. It's just stupid. I never liked that. The meta sucks. Ralph is creepy. The Council of Wells is dumb. I don't know. A complete dud of an episode. I'm glad that they're moving forward with the plot because this one was really not good. It's a little crazy, isn't it, that it took the show this long to recreate what made season 1's Reverse Flash so compelling, and that's that he was a character. Zoom was never a character, not a meaningful one anyways, and Savitar was never a character, he felt more like a plot device. They were faceless antagonists that never had the depth they needed until it was too late. The show has made a conscious decision now with DeVoe to craft him as a character. This episode shows that in all of its glory. This guy is instantly more compelling than Zoom and Savitar simply by getting to know him. I really like everything this episode does. I like how it makes Barry seem crazy, which is nice build up to one of the next episodes coming up. You know, Crisis on Earth X, it's pretty fun. Again, hard to talk about the crossovers too much, but I really enjoy this one. Rest in peace to Stein though, for real. The final 10 minutes of this episode are some of the best in the entire show. I really like how it's built up with DeVoe making people think Barry's crazy and just stalking him so that when it turns out that he's framed for DeVoe's murder, it feels like just Barry crashed out and killed an innocent professor. It's such a great twist. And the episode is just pretty solid. I really like it, but that ending twist is what really holds this one together for me. Yeah, this one's great. You know, I love the trial scenes. I love the emotion. I love Barry being honored at CCPD at the same time as the judge calls him a despicable person. It's a huge starting point for the show and the season. Placing the Flash in prison is kind of crazy. I don't know. I just really enjoy this one. I think it sets the season on a great path to continue being one of the best seasons of the show. I don't see how they could easily mess it up. They'd have to have another episode focused entirely on Ralph Dibny that's not funny but thinks it's funny. They wouldn't do that. Okay. Go off, I guess. What do you want me to say? The elongated night really did rise. It's fine. It's a Ralph-centered episode, so you know. You get what you pay for. I paid $23.99 because I own the season on Blu-ray, so. Dwarf Star isn't the most compelling season 4 meta, but I think there's a lot of great action with him in this episode. In fact, it's probably better than anything in the Ant-Man movies. It still doesn't have a lot of bark to it, or bite to it rather, either. But I really like the prison stuff. I think that's what really holds this episode up. And the stuff with Big Sur and Barry in prison is great. There's a lot of interesting moments in this episode that keep it afloat over something like The Elongated Night Rises or the next few episodes coming up. Listen, everything with Barry and the metas in the prison is great. I love these metas. I think they were set up very well throughout the season. And this is a great conclusion to what feels like that first major chapter of season 4. But unfortunately, the rest of the episode is bogged down by some terrible Ralph stuff. It's really this episode that shows the issues with Ralph's character and what we still have to suffer through for the final 10 episodes. It's very redundant. He learns the same lesson over and over, and he's not as funny as the show thinks that he is, unfortunately. This one should have been a major turning point, and it's just not. I mean, Barry gets out of prison. Even the way he gets out of prison felt cheap. I like everything leading up to the very end, and that sours the episode for me. It's still solid. I still like it, but it's not as good as it could have been, and it'll always be disappointing for that reason. This feels like a season 3 episode, and that's not a compliment. The story is plotting. The characters are annoying. Barry is in his annoying asshole team leader mode right now that I hate. It's just a complete dud of an episode. It's probably the worst of season 4, easily, even worse than episode 6. It just doesn't work. And, you know, it's like the formula that works so well of DeVoe creates a metahuman and Barry and the team go up against it and then they move on. Like, that works for the first few episodes of a season, but we are in episode 14 now. That has gotten stale. We have seen that essentially 14 times. This is a really enjoyable and epic episode. It's really inventive. It transformed Barry's power set in such a really fun way. I just love it. There's not much else to say. It's a really enjoyable episode and has a great moment with the special effects at the end as Barry's running through the Speed Force. I really like that. I do hate that it ruined the perception of his power though. There's no flash time. There's no going flash time. Flash time is how Barry perceives everything as he runs. Like, it's not a separate ability, it's just what he sees when he runs. And I think the show is at fault, but I think also viewers just kind of took the wrong lesson from it. Everything that has to do with Barry and Iris swapping powers is really good, and there's great character work for Iris and some terrific action, but unfortunately everything else is just Harry's thinking cap is really dumb. Ralph is annoying. The new bus meta is completely dull. I do like that at the end, Barry offers Iris the choice to keep his powers. I felt like it was a very mature development for Barry to make, especially since Barry can be too dependent and feel like he needs his powers. I like that though. Solid enough episode, I just wish it was stronger. There are some admittedly cool ideas in this episode, namely everything to do with DeVoe and Marlize, but man, I really don't like this one. The main plot is completely dull and void of anything interesting. The Breacher and Cisco stuff sucks. Ralph's jokes are really unfunny. Look, I appreciate Ralph saying he used humor as a way to ease his fears as a child, but maybe the show should actually make his jokes funny so I'm not suffering for 42 minutes. Anyway, the real crime of this episode was how Breacher said he was fighting some dude named Crucifer, the leader of the 10th circle of an army of blood-sucking villains, and we didn't see that. Fuck off.
Hey, so Editor Jay here. As you can see from this image, we do clearly see that event happen. So I guess that's on me for being a fake fan.
Season 4 has definitely been spinning its wheels for the past few episodes, but I think this righted the ship a good bit. For one, all 12 bus metas have now been claimed by DeVoe, which, thank goodness, I cannot believe they actually had 12 bus metas and were like, yeah, we can get 12 episodes of that. Like you can't. You really can't. That's like the most repetitive thing I've ever heard. Anyway, he moves the season into endgame territory, and I think that works pretty well. Another reason this episode worked was the climax was really, really solid, and I like the character work for Ralph. I thought his death was awesome. I remember watching this episode and actually being shocked and horrified at that. Solid development. It's a little cyclical at times, but I think that's really moving the season into a good spot. Earth X Laurel adds basically nothing to the episode that couldn't be achieved with any other type of meta, but I think it's good. I really like the stuff with Cisco and Harry, and Leo from Earth X talking with Barry about grief was pretty good. I like that it's a nice slower episode following Lose Yourself. It's a nice epilogue. DeVoe is finally back to being as good as he was in the first half, which is really cool. It's just an okay episode though at the end of the day. I like it. It's solid. Nothing much to say. It's kind of run-of-the-mill for the second half of season 4. This episode's cool. I love DeVoe. Seeing him, he's really felt like he's back in his first half of the season state. They've settled with Neil Sandilands again, which is great because the other actors really didn't do very well. I love the use of his powers. Seeing him bounce around and just kill dudes in such a ruthless way is cool. He's lost all form of empathy and views only characters and people as equations, and I think that's really, really cool. It doesn't even feel edgy. It just feels devoid of being a person, and that's really cool. The flashbacks are terrific, and they really paint a picture of how the DeVoes wanted to truly help the world, and seeing how that turned into this is actually really saddening. Marlize's exit was great, and the relationship drama was pretty well done between Cisco and Gypsy. I think their breakup was well written. A solid episode for the second half. It really feels like things are starting to right themselves a little bit more. Listen, I used to think this was the worst episode of the show ever, but now, I don't know, it's just whatever. I was bored. It's just bored. Barry helps a human trafficker, and then they try to get Caitlin's powers back, but it doesn't work. Whatever, let's move on. The penultimate is like half an episode of really good and half an episode of a lot of filler. Harry and Iris' subplot drags on for something that just amounts to one big scene at the end, and Harry being dumb isn't funny, and Cecile's plot is her getting her mind control powers. Still, everything with Cecile's mind control powers has never been good on this show, and I'm tired of pretending it's not, even though I don't have to pretend because nobody likes it. I don't even like it anymore. I'm like the show's biggest defender. It's stupid. This episode's got the best opening though, with DeVoe going in the facility and just murking people. That was awesome. It's kind of crazy what a good finale can do to a second half of season that's had a lot of bumps and really struggled to work. The finale ties so much of it together and does a lot to redeem the second half, which is cool because it could have tanked. It could have been like a season 3 situation. And I don't love everything. The stuff inside DeVoe's mind isn't amazing, but I like how it takes the episode's concept from the season and retrofits them to be something more important. Harry being a test subject for the alignment is great. The Speed Force symbols being tied to that is really cool. It's just all in all a great finale. And come on, the satellite punch is sick at the end. And the Nora reveal, I don't know. This was an iconic moment, and I think this is a good finale that ties everything together. Sometimes having a great and fun climactic punch can do a lot for a season. I like season 4. It's pretty inconsistent, has a lot of bumps in the road, but it's an enjoyable enough time. Very comparable to season 2. I think I like this one a little more because it resolves itself better, but the two are probably pretty interchangeable. Very flawed, but very fun season of the show. I like the tone a lot, and I think DeVoe's a pretty good villain, way better than Zoom. It starts strong, has a really, really big issue in the middle, and then gets pretty good by the end. This is probably the single best premiere of the show that isn't the pilot. It's pretty great. There's great humor, great character moments, and the final set piece phasing the plane is so exciting. I love when the show does crazy things with their powers, like phasing a train or a plane. It's really cool, and I love the introduction of Nora. Season 5 is one of my favorite seasons, and I think its opening set of episodes are always such a joy to rewatch. The opening with Cicada recovering from his fight with Gridlock at the end of episode 1 is terrific, and his fight scene at the end with Team Flash is so menacing. I really love it. The main plot of the episode with Block is just okay, and Nora and Barry's dynamic does enough to elevate it, but it's whatever at the end of the day. Still a really solid episode that I enjoy rewatching. One of the coolest parts about Season 5's opening batch of episodes is that episodes 1 through 3 achieve what most seasons do in just a single episode. We get our villain, we get introduced to Nora and her dynamic with the team, but by spreading it over 3 episodes, it starts with the season off with a bang of tension, intrigue, and it gives all those elements time to breathe. And it's really cool how 501 through 503 spells out Nora blocked the death of Vibe. Vibe's own death in this episode is sort of whatever. It was kind of this season's own clickbait episode. And Cicada is still menacing even if Chris Klein delivers some lines pretty weird. I like how he goes after Vibe in this episode. It's just a really fun episode, much like the first 2 of the season. Definitely the weakest episode of Season 5 so far for me, but not a bad episode by any stretch. The main conflict with Spencer Young is kind of lame, but the drama in the main core of the episode emotionally is pretty solid, so it makes up for it. This is a terrific debut for Ragdoll. I really like this. All of his scenes are wonderfully gross and fantastic, and the drama with Iris and Nora is so good. I really like seeing that. I like that it's just this kind of weird drama that it's hard to get behind because you don't have your future daughter show up and hate you, but Iris does. And I think it's compelling to see it work out that way. I'm really a big fan of the drama in this season. I think this is the first season of the show to actually have good drama. The climax is too also. I love seeing Iris jump off of a building and then Ralph vores Ragdoll. I'm not kidding. He actually vores him. For the first 30 or so minutes, this episode was just okay. I thought the subplots would be enough to save the episode because they are pretty fun. I like seeing Iris and Nora go with Sherlock to try and locate the satellite, and the Cecile and Ralph stuff is okay. But Icicle is such a terrible villain. The last 12 minutes happen and the episode goes to complete shit. The resolution to Caitlin's powers issues is stupid. They say she just had a mental block and she didn't actually lose her powers, which doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. This is easily the worst episode of the show since season 3 and the worst episode of season 5 so far. That is a lot more like it. While I don't love the Weather Witch plot, it's solid enough and has a great climax, which makes the episode more memorable, and I really like the Cicada flashbacks. Seeing those scenes coincide with the Happy Team Flash family scenes were really cool, and I think this is another example similar to the DeVoe flashbacks where they do a lot to build Cicada as a character and make you actually care about him, and it really worked on me. Fantastic 100th episode, man. It's such an awesome episode. It honors the show's legacy in a really fun way while also managing to be an engaging entry in the Cicada conflict. I love the idea of going back in time to gather a weapon to stop him. Should it have been wrapped up here? Maybe. I think it's hard to say because I like the resolution that we get 8 episodes from now in episode 16, but it's not hard to imagine the season being better if this were the conclusion of Orland Dwyer as a villain. Either way, episode is awesome, and the final reveal with Nora is so good. I can't dislike this episode, even if the final climax was a little messy. There's a little bit of petty drama in this episode, and I think Oliver and Barry having to act like each other is a little silly at times. But the Amazo conflict is really fun in the climax, and I think this episode goes incredibly hard. One of the best crossovers. This episode's fine. The car meta is okay. I think the stuff with Weather Witch is pretty solid though. It's got a little bit of filler and it drags for some of the runtime, and the main plot with the car girl, while fine, is nothing special. It doesn't really stand out to me. That's an okay episode. Solid return. This should be a great episode, but I think it just ends up being good, not great. The character stuff with Barry is pretty good. I like seeing him vengeful and wrathful against Cicada. But unfortunately, I think Cicada himself is probably at his worst here. I'm a pretty big Bugman defender, and I think his design is cool, his power set is awesome, and again, I really like his backstory, like I said, but there's so many moments in this episode where I just have to ignore how easily they could have stopped him. It's still a good enough time. I just wish that it was better. I think there's potential here for a great episode, but it's a little underbaked. While it's definitely frustrating that this is essentially another episode where a plan to stop Cicada has fallen through, I think this episode works extremely well when it comes to pushing forward both Nora's story and the Cicada one. It teases Grace's attitude toward metas, and I think that's really awesome. I love the going into the Mindscape stuff. It's just a really solid episode thematically, and it's really cool to watch. What makes Goldfaced one of the best episodes of Season 5 and one of my favorites of the show? There's a myriad of factors, but mainly it's the fact that Barry and Ralph have a laser gun fight set to Dragula. I also think the character work with Nora and the Mystery of Thawne is a strong second place, and Goldface as an actual villain is so fun. I love him. He's easily one of the best recurring villains in the entire show. How good is Cause and Excess? So good that not even the dagger working weirdly can ruin my enjoyment. It's so good that even Cicada jumping into the air once again so another character could say another permutation of Cicada won't show his face around here after that beating for the 15th time can ruin it. This is such a fun time loop episode. Has a great lesson for Nora at the end. It's really funny and snappy. Overall, just easily one of my favorites of the season, like a lot of other episodes so far. Well, there's some rough drama at the start with Barry and Cisco arguing about the cure and whether they should have given it to the shark that was literally about to eat Cisco. I think it's a cool episode. The fight between King Shark and Grodd is terrific, especially when Barry and Nora step in. And I like the stuff with Shay and the doctor lady too. Iris's arc was also pretty compelling, seeing her deal with the ramifications that Cicada knows where she lives and attacked her at her office. I think there's a lot of cool stuff here. I love this episode, man. I think the Cicada storyline is resolved so well here. There's some inconsistent dagger nonsense, but at the heart of it, I really adore the way Barry gets in touch with Dwyer, and I love the connection that he has with the doctor that was helping him. He's a genuinely sympathetic villain, and the episode is so fun at the build-up to giving Cicada the cure. I think actually having him come into the office and talking with the team and threatening them was really cool. I don't know, I really like the direction that the story went in here, and I think the resolution is cool. Even if I think that Grace is a sort of underwhelming second half of the season villain, her introduction is admittedly awesome here. This would be one of my all-time favorites of the season if it had actually resolved Grace here. I think I like her here, and she adds a lot to the episode. I like seeing Orlin be genuinely upset that his, niece turned daughter has turned into this, and I think that it would have been cool to resolve both of them here, especially since she kills her uncle. Unfortunately, she ends up just jumping away and we have to deal with her over the next couple episodes. But I don't know. It's a solid enough time, and I think it's got a lot of great moments. I really like the ending with moving the Thawne storyline forward. This episode should be really silly and off-putting with all of his references to the pilot, but it actually turns out to be pretty endearing. The stuff with Thawne at the end is also terrific, and I just love how the entire season is shaping up right now. Even if the Grace stuff and Cicada stuff is on shaky ground, I think the season's in a really good spot. I don't think I've ever seen an episode of TV quite like Snowpack. One where half of the episode is really, really well written and a great fallout of the past few episodes. Seriously, that discussion between Barry and Iris was so well written and acted. It blows my mind when I rewatch it all the time. And I love seeing Iris go to the future with Ralph and talk to Thawne. It's so cool. And then the way Nora accesses the negative speed force because she feels abandoned by her dad is, oh man, there's so many great character moments with Nora and everything going on. Unfortunately, we have to get back to the crazy mumbo jumbo that's going on with Caitlyn's dad. He shows up for a doodad called the Cryo Atomizer. He sucks. Why is he even in this show? Caitlyn sucks too, and her mom sucks. And then on top of that, all Cicada shows up and sucks too and kills her dad. Seriously, we should have dropped Grace in episode 17. I really don't get why she stays around. Especially if she's just going to show up and do pointless shit like this. It's a little unfocused and slow to start, but the final 15 minutes or so really kick this episode into gear. I wish Evil Nora had more screen time, but I do enjoy what we get, and the resolution of the arc here is good. That it being so short isn't too terrible, but it does feel a little underbaked. I could have gone for a couple episodes of this. What if you took every single underdeveloped plotline the show has had since it's wrapped up the first phase of the Cicada story and put it in a single episode? And what if you combined it with a retread of episode 11? You get this one. It's fine, it's just almost utterly pointless. Nora and Grace are an admittedly awesome thematic duo in concept, seeing the legacy of their parents define who they are now. but the show doesn't really go anywhere with it, nor does it have the time to develop it. Grace is introduced far too late into the season. If they were going to do this, they needed to have done it all the way back and do it in the second half of the season, but way earlier, like episode 10 or 11. Stretching it out to do it in episode 21 of 22 just feels rushed and pointless. This is the exact episode this season needed to make up for the mistakes of season 5. Season 5 is really great, I still really like it, and this finale is most of the reason why. It's initially annoying that Grace gets away at the opening of the episode, but the resolution of her plot is really, really good, and I like the scene with her and Nora and the two cicadas, one being good and one being evil. I really like when the episode transitions to Thawne too. It's a great climax, and the season really nails the ending to Nora's story. No matter what, Nora was the true main plot of season 5, and all of the emotional climax needed here was achieved. Hey, the first truly great season of the show since season 1. I know it might be unpopular, but I don't really care. I think this one's great. I love seeing Nora introduced. I think her arc is fantastic, and it really tells a cohesive story from front to back. I love the Thawne mystery, and Cicada was a really enjoyable antagonist. There's a lot of issues here. The story can stop and start at an annoying pace sometimes, and Cicada does get dragged out, but when it works, it's a very, very good time. Season 6 is one of my absolute favorite seasons, and this premiere always shows me why. These characters just feel so much mature, but still the same as always, and I think the show feels wackier and more insane, but it's still the same show. And the villain of the episode being a sentient black hole was such an inspired choice. If I had any complaints, I think the pacing can be a bit slow, and I don't really care about anything Killer Frost related, but still this episode is such a great opening for a great season. I like seeing Barry and Iris work through their trauma with Nora's death. I like how Barry throws himself into the work, and Iris is trying desperately to avoid anything that has to do with mourning her daughter. I think it's very compelling, I think it works very well, and it balances itself so nicely with the wackier black hole elements of the episode. While this one isn't quite as focused as episode 1 of the season, Into the Void, I still think there's a lot to love here. I like the meta of the week problems, and I like that for this season so far, they're just more problems that need to be solved rather than your typical villains. With episode 1, they had to cure Chester to make sure he was okay, but here the stuff with Allegra was pretty good. I like seeing that they had to make sure that she wasn't convicted of a crime that she didn't commit. I like the character a lot so far, and the way that it focused on Cecile's arc was pretty well done as well. There was some rocky drama, but that's the Flash for you at the end of the day. And the Crisis teases were really, really cool. I loved seeing Barry experience all the alternate futures. I thought it was really awesome. It's hard for me to truly explain what I mean when I call Season 6 confident, but it's just the word that comes to mind. Season 3 felt too scared to embrace the show being campy and tried to be more like Arrow in a soap opera, and Seasons 4 and 5 felt too scared to really embrace the show needing to be sometimes more serious. Season 6 has so far managed to bundle together incredibly goofy and silly comic book nonsense alongside character arcs that are extremely compelling. It's like all the improvements made in Season 5 are upgraded tenfold. Team Flash fights a literal zombie in this episode, and it's awesome. I love Barry and Ramsey's initial confrontation in this episode. It's so tense, it's so cool. I love how immediately you can feel like these two characters understand each other on a way that the others don't. I think it's really cool. This episode is almost entirely character focused, and I think it's one of the best of the season, easily. It's just a really great entry that deals with Barry's impending fate, as well as developing Ramsey as a villain in really cool ways. There's some serious moments, like whenever he looks at the Hippocratic Oath when he realizes that he has to kill, and it's a little corny and on the nose, but I still really like this. Couple this with the Cisco and Barry drama that I think is really well done, and alongside trying to find a cure for Ramsey. Overall, just a great episode. Barry's barely even the Flash in it, and it still works. It's still compelling. I've never really given this episode its due. It's got some great stuff for Cisco, and I like the climax a lot, but my only real issue with it is the stuff with Joe and Nash is just okay. They sit in that tunnel and talk about faith. It's boring. I do like seeing Cisco have to solve a murder mystery, and I think the noir elements are cool, but it's still a little pointless to me that they killed off Gypsy the way they did. I didn't really care for that. If I miss Ralph for anything, it's episodes like this with Ralph. Last season's Goldface is one of my favorite episodes of that season, and License to Elongate is a terrific episode that, while not as good, is still really strong for Barry and Ralph's dynamic, as well as just being a super fun episode in general. Like Barry and Ralph stop a missile system that's about to blow Washington, D.C. up. How can I not love this? Look, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that The Flash is anything beyond camp. It's a stupid campy show about a dude who goes fast, but sometimes the show goes off, and it went off in this episode. I think this one is genuinely something special among the CW. Not just in its writing, but in the execution of the effects, the direction. It's all stunning, and the acting is some of the best acting that the show has ever produced. Grant and Sindhill are terrific, and they bounce off of each other so well, and Michelle Harrison delivers the best performance she's ever given on the show. So much of the season has been leading up to this exact moment. Ramsey and Barry's parallel arcs come together in such a really cool way, and seeing Barry take back his agency and tell the Speed Force off was so great. The Speed Force has been a toxic presence in the show every appearance it's had as far back as season 2's The Runaway Dinosaur. So seeing Barry clap back was so good. Easily my favorite episode of the entire show. It's trippy, it's fun, it makes you think, it's cathartic, it's just such a great episode, and Grant Gustin delivers the best performance in the entire show. While this one's obviously not as great as part 1, The Last Temptation of Barry Allen Part 2 is not only a terrific ending to the first arc of season 6, but it's just an awesome episode in general. It's literally a zombie invasion of Central City. It's a mini horror movie that's also all building up to crisis. There's this sense of urgency that even though they're gonna stop Bloodwork, they still can't stop the oncoming storm that is Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's really cool. It's also got better zombie action than The Last of Us show. I'm a big fan of the opening arc of season 6. It's probably the best stretch of episodes the show has ever had. Easily the top of the show right now. Crisis on Infinite Earths is cool. How much of it makes sense? Barely anything. But I'm done pretending like I don't like getting wrapped up in the excitement. Sometimes the death can feel a little bit wasted with Barry not actually dying, but I like how they go with it in the second half of the season. The first half of this episode is a little rocky, I won't lie. Some of the writing is a bit too expository, and the dialogue about reporters' intuition with Iris is so weird. I don't like how these CW shows always portray reporting as a superpower. You don't have to do that. Anyway, the second half of the episode is really good. I love Joseph Carver a lot, and he and Iris have such a fun dynamic. And I also really like the Crisis fallout, especially with Cisco and Nash. It feels like a seismic shift has happened behind the scenes of the show, and I think that's really cool. There's a lot of drama and writing here that's immediately undone due to the fact that it's not really Iris in the episode, and I think that's unfortunate because that was some really solid drama. I like the idea of Barry having to figure out the fact that his wife might have moved on in the time that she was preemptively grieving his death. The show does a lot with this concept of all of Barry's friends and family have to get over the fact that he didn't die. It almost reminds me of a family member that might have had a terminal illness, and you spend all of your time hoping and preparing for the end, but then it doesn't happen, and what do you do after that? It's a really compelling plot and a really compelling emotion that the show digs up with this. Unfortunately, it's saddled in one of the worst episodes of the season. It's just really goofy. They got a good Radiohead joke in it. This is decent payoff to the Sue Dearborn mystery. I really love seeing Barry and Joe work on a RICO case trying to stop Joseph Carver. I like how everyone thinks Joseph Carver is the villain right now. I think it's very compelling. And I like how everything is somewhat tying into this puzzle piece that we don't really understand. It's like some actual mystery that we're trying to piece together with some corporate espionage and everything. And I think it's really cool. It almost feels like a thriller. Mirror Iris is gaslighting Barry, which is fun. And I think the mirror gun being back makes for some great continuity from season 5. Just a really enjoyable episode. I like how the season highlights different perspectives like this. Having an entire Ralph episode was really entertaining. This episode is just awesome. It's like I said in my review for this season premiere, this season is confident. In the same episode that Grodd and Barry's mind fuse, we get a gorilla with super speed. The episode also handles topics like Barry trying to accept his new post-crisis life for what it is. It opens with Barry looking for his parents' grave and not being able to find it. Like, that's gotta suck. He has his entire world shifted, and he's one of the only people that remember that anything was ever any different. This is one of those episodes where there's so much going on that it should be a complete mess that doesn't work at all, and yet it's all compelling and every idea still works. It's a lot like episode 2 of the season, even right down to them having a fight scene in CCPD against a bland meta of the week. Thawne returns in this one, which is pretty cool, and I love the Speed Force dying. It's a cool way to tie into Crisis, and I think it makes it feel better that even though Barry survived, the source of his powers are going to die. I like this one. I think this is it's packed, it's stuffed full to the brim, but it's really fun and really enjoyable. I'll admit the concept of exorcising Eobard Thawne from Nash Wells' head is incredibly stupid, but this is really solid. It's a surprisingly good coda to the season 5 finale, which is something I think that finale really needed. Seeing Barry tell Thawne that he can't hurt him anymore is really solid, and I love seeing Thawne try to get at Barry as much as he can, and knowing that he can't. It feels like a real turn has happened with their dynamic and the rivalry between them, and Thawne's gonna have to think of new ways to mess with Barry, and I think that's cool. Something about this episode has always stuck out to me, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. I think this one just has such good character drama, and I love watching everything that happens. Joe has a great scene with Joseph Carver where they're talking, and then Joe goes into witness protection at the end. Knowing that Eva is orchestrating an entire downfall is so cool. The episode does so well with Barry slowly losing his speed. I shouldn't love another Barry losing his speed arc, but the slow decrease in his speed allows for wonderful zaps of tension. He feels like he's running on empty. Something feels wrong, and I think it's so cool. The final scene with Mirror Iris where she breaks up with Barry is one of the best scenes of the entire season, which is saying a lot. Liberation has got to be such a cool episode. The way the episode almost completely makes up for the Mirror Iris arc is really cool. I've mentioned it in passing, but yeah, there's a Mirror Iris arc. It's kind of the main plot of the second half of the season. The season focuses a little too much on Joseph Carver and everything, but they really pay off here. They break the mirror. There's so many crazy, trippy moments. I love that in the same episode where Mirror Iris has sword hands, we get what is probably the best scene between Barry and Iris, where they talk to each other through mirrors. I love how Eva and Barry finally have a confrontation, and it's when she's talking to the broken shell of a hero that the Flash used to be. It's so cool how she comes out as this fully realized villain, and Barry's like, I don't even know who you are. One of the best episodes of the season, probably my second favorite. It's a shame that this is season 6's penultimate episode, because there's a lot of things working here that just don't work because it's so close to the end of the season now. The episode could have been really cool. It's got glimmers of greatness with the team all fumbling to find some semblance of where to go after finding out that Iris is a mirror clone and not knowing where it is. This season has the emotional core that it needs to go forward. It almost feels like a better season 3 in that regard. It's all very emotionally sappy, but it's well done because the show actually makes you care and makes it feel rational. Unfortunately, Godspeed just shows up and starts zapping people and wants speed, and I don't know, it's very pointless. I liked seeing Pied Piper come back, but this just always felt like a disappointment of an episode. It needed a better script, or it needed to not be the penultimate episode of the season. Now, is this the finale that season 6 deserved? No. But it's a pretty good one anyway. Success is Assured has no right to be as good as it is, but it touches upon every main plot point of the second half of season 6. Notice I said touched on because nothing gets wrapped up. I think this does work though because it's a huge moment in the season. Eva takes over and kills Carver, and Carver's death feels like a seismic shift. It feels like a really big moment where the villain won, and I think that's cool, and I think it sets up season 7 for such a cool dynamic starting it off. And yeah, that's my favorite season of The Flash. It's honestly a tie between this and season 1, but season 6 has this level of understanding of what makes the show tick that I just love. I love the graphic novel format here. Ramsey is probably my favorite villain of the show, and the way the entire season flows and connects the two halves with Crisis is such a cool touch. It's got so many of my favorite episodes. I love the tone. I love the emotional through lines of it. I love how smart it can feel at times. Sometimes I feel alone in my adoration for season 6, but this is genuinely my favorite season. You know, I said that the ending of season 6 actually felt like it worked as a finale? Well, the opening of season 7 almost feels like it works as a premiere. All's Wells That Ends Wells manages to open the season pretty well, and while it's not as good a finale as Success was to season 6, I think it works. The Wells death is great, Grant plays all of the Wells, and it's extremely fun to watch, and I think Barry getting his speed back feels like a good way to end a premiere. I just wish it didn't also feel simultaneously low stakes, and yet this is still the end of a season. This is just awesome. This is such a cool episode. Barry's speed thinking is so fun. I love the way the episode feels like an episode 2, while still clearly being the penultimate episode of a major story arc. The Killer Frost fight scene is so cool. Overall, just such a stellar episode this year, this early into a season. There's some couple issues with maybe Cisco's writing. He's a little annoying here, and I think the episode has a pacing issue where it kind of goes by too quickly and gets too slow at some points, but I really like it. 2 episodes in, and season 7 is really maintaining the momentum of season 6. This is really cool. Such a clunky episode. You know, I don't know. I've always found something oddly compelling about this one. I still love Iris rebooting the Speed Force, and I like the way they redeem Eva enough, and I think the final fight between Team Flash and Eva is pretty fun. I think a second draft, this would have been one of the best finales for the show to have, but it really suffers from being so small and segmented, and I think that's due to COVID. I like it enough, but it's really nothing special. What a dull episode, man. The Barry and Iris character work is admittedly pretty strong, and the writing with Abracadabra can be fun, but his redemption is so corny and dumb, and he immediately dies by Fuerza, who just shows the fuck up, and it's so funny out of nowhere where she comes. And Cisco is so annoying again in this episode. I don't know what it was, but I'm ready for this character to go. I never thought that I would say that, but I cannot stand Cisco. Overall, utterly fine episode. I wish I could like the character stuff because it feels as good as some of the stuff in season 6, but it's not given any time to really breathe. We gotta cram so much in. This is one of the few episodes of season 7 that I don't think gets worse with each viewing. I think this one's pretty fun. Psyche is really enjoyable to watch. I love the actor so much. And I think the climax and drama between Frost and Caitlin isn't even that bad either. It's nothing amazing, but it's a last hurrah of quality for season 7. I like seeing Cisco and Chester bounce around inside the time loop, and I think Dion is really, really fun. I just feel like the Still Force's powers make absolutely no sense. There's barely any Barry whatsoever. He just kind of shows up and goes into a tube and stays there. It was whatever. The biggest issue with this episode is the Speed Force is downright terrible. The show is starting to treat her as like some human, and Iris is talking about like wrapping her in a burrito blanket. What is going on? This episode is so bad. It's focused on Frost, which automatically makes it at least 70% of a snooze fest. Add on top of that the terrible plot with the Speed Force trying to be Barry's mom, even though it looks like his dead mother, and I hate it. The stuff with Barry and the Strength Force user Alexa is admittedly alright, but the entire nonsense with Frost's trial makes absolutely fuck all sense. Any dramatic tension is immediately lost once you realize that they can't even threaten her with the metahuman cure, since her powers don't come from dark matter. They established this all the way back in season 5, that's why she doesn't get affected by Cicada's dagger. There are some really, really fun moments in this episode. Dion and Barry have a cool conversation, and the stuff with Iris and Psyche is cool, and I really love seeing the birth of the forces. It's got brilliant effects and great cinematography there. But this episode is pretty bad still. Barry is literally right. His plan is the best course of action, and everyone just decides that he's wrong. And there's all this family shit that's so cringe. Like, I do not need to see grown characters calling Barry and Iris mom and dad. And at the end of the day, this is a glorified filler episode, and you realize this arc has barely moved at all. We're 2 episodes from the end of it, and what have we even possibly accomplished? And then I think Iris has been nearly character assassinated. Her behavior toward the Speed Force that looks like Barry's dead mom is so bad. She's so cavalier toward it, and we don't see how it hurts Barry. In fact, Barry has no real reaction to it at all. What has happened to the show? That would have like dogged down 3 episodes in season 6 if this was happening there. I genuinely don't think the show has ever been this bad for this long. This is yet another episode that makes me so bored. At least Psyche is funny in it, but Fuerza sucks so bad. This is just... oh, man. Yeah, this is the worst episode of the entire show. From its opening scene, the episode is just content to completely undo every single twist that it reveals. Character motivations and writing changes on a dime, even within certain scenes. Every little issue that has plagued this storyline has compounded to create a truly dreadful climax to a story that, let's be honest, never even worked. The writing is nonsensical. Barry and company hide from the Speed Force inside the Speed Force. And how are these other forces other people? Are they people? Is the Speed Force a person? They insinuate that the forces chose these people to be the avatars, but if that's the truth, then the Speed Force had to have chosen Barry's dead mother's corpse? And then Cecile randomly gets struck by lightning. Frost and Chillblade are fighting at the same time throughout the episode, despite the episode clearly taking place over the entire day? What is happening? It's nice to go from an episode that I truly and absolutely despised to one of the best in recent memory. This is such a great goodbye episode for Cisco, but also a terrific and fun villain of the week episode. I love the breakdancing. Really funny, really goofy, but also heartfelt and sincere. It's one of the better season 7 episodes. It's still very light, so you take it or leave it with that. But Psycho Pirate is really fun, and I think the mental health stuff with Cecile is pretty well handled. Solid filler episode, nothing much to say. This is the complete opposite of the last episode. I have no idea what to say about this one. It's so dull. Everything in this episode lacks anything of consequence or quality. It's Allegra focused, and it's just pulling at threads from season 6 that don't need to be pulled at. The only good part about the episode is Chester. He's funny. I like him. When this episode actually focuses on the Godspeed plot, it's actually really, really cool. I love the multiple clones. I adore the action scene. Barry becomes a badass for the first time in the entire season during this fight, and I think it's cool. Unfortunately, the subplots really hold this episode back. I don't care about ultraviolet surgery. I don't care about Chillblaine and Frost. And Barry has this weird pregnancy scare that doesn't make any sense because Iris is completely absent from the episode. Most of the episode works, but there's a lot of major issues, and it just feels like the stink of season 7 isn't letting the last stretch of episodes be good. Much like the last episode, this one is split in half. The main plot with Godspeed is really, really fun and enjoyable, but the subplots suck. Joe is with Kristen Kramer, who I have barely talked about because I hate her, but they are just mucking around in a forest, and it's kind of like the Chillblaine stuff where the episode takes place clearly over a larger stretch of time, but these characters are in a forest for like what has to be like an hour. Then you tie that together with Allegra and her sister just randomly dying off screen, even though we had a whole episode of getting her voice box back, and what's going on, man? I like the Godspeed stuff a lot, and Diggle's return is cool, but there's something so broken about the second half of this episode. I've always really liked the 2-part finale of season 7. It's got a lot of silly, stupid, dumb shit in it, but at the same time, there's a lot of cool stuff, and it's the first episode of the arc where I feel like the show knows what it wants to do. Sure, it's rushed, the dialogue is still season 7, and the subplots still suck, but there's some great character moments here that I really love, and maybe I'm just really scrounging for something of quality in season 7, but I enjoyed it. This is a truly batshit finale that I really wish I didn't love as much as I did. It's almost impossible to write a coherent review for such an incoherent episode. There's lightning lightsabers that are so mind-numbingly stupid but also really fun, and Barry and Thawne have a surprising final scene. Why did they bring Thawne back? Is that a good idea? No. What did he even accomplish? Nothing. Barry could have done it by himself, but the scene that the two have is so well done and continues that season 6 through line where Thawne is going to have to really find some way to truly dick with Barry that Barry does not see coming. It's a complete mess of an episode and it ends a complete mess of a season, but it entertains me, which is more than 90% of season 7. I just can't find it in myself to hate it. Oh, it's insane how the show managed to deliver its best season and immediately follow it with its worst. Season 7 sucks. This season just collapses after it resolves the season 6 plotline and never really picks itself back up, even if I sorta like the last chunk of episodes. The Forces arc is genuinely the worst the show has ever been, and the Godspeed arc does not make up for it whatsoever. It's just really bad. This is a really great premiere. Mind you, this might have the same score as the finale of season 7, but I was completely brain rotted when doing season 7, so forget about that. This is a completely different beast. It's such a well-crafted episode, and it's really well written, and it's just got a mature feeling. It feels a lot like season 6. It feels like the show is confident again, and I love the character stuff, especially with Chester and Ray, and I think the final fight with Despero was cool. Great start to a season that I know is great. This episode is still just a near masterpiece of tension for this show. The way that everything goes to shit for Barry is so well handled, and I love that we were not privy to any of this information. It feels like we're going crazy with him. It's just so well executed, it's so tense, and it's so cool. Something is genuinely so off with the Armageddon universe that we're thrusted into, and I love seeing Barry try and figure out what's going on. The scene where he finds out that Joe is dead is so cool. Fantastic episode, one of my favorites of the later half of the show. Armageddon is just such a well-written chunk of the show. It's hard to describe exactly why I love it, but it just feels so concise, thought through, and confident. It doesn't feel like the erratic and hard to follow mess that it was throughout all of season 7. It feels like they took some time away and came back with a season that they knew how to write, and I think this episode is great. I love the reveal at the end with Thawne. I love the Barry and Black Lightning stuff. Seriously, that is some of the best stuff in the entire show. Fantastic character work. If I had anything to say that brings the episode down a little bit, I will say I think that the stuff with Cecile is just sort of whatever, but I still really enjoy this episode. If you skip every scene that isn't the A-plot, I think this is one of the best episodes of the show. As it stands, it's still fantastic. I think it would be the best episode of the show without the B-plot. Barry and Thawne have the best story the show has ever had. I think I even prefer this over season 1. Something about Thawne completely changing the fabric of reality and making Barry the Reverse Flash is so fucking cool. And sure, the time travel issues can be a little annoying to some people, but they say he used the negative still force, so I assume he just changed time the way that Timeless Wells does, where it only changes one part of the timeline. Enough yapping, this episode's just awesome. Now the subplot with the relationship drama, that sucks. I just fast forward through that every time I watch this episode. This is a great climax for Armageddon, and it always makes me excited to watch part 5 as well. And thus, Armageddon ends with a pretty big bang. This episode is so fun. Barry and Thawne scenes are fantastic. I love getting to see his origin. I love how it borrows from the new line of comic books, and it makes him just feel like this big egomaniac sociopath. It's really fun. The stuff with Despero is actually pretty cool. I like how he's right, and he predicts the finale of the season by saying that Thawne, if left alive, will always find some way to come back and try to destroy Barry's life. The moral dilemma about whether or not to save Thawne is also really well thought out, and the final fight with Despero and Barry is so good. I just wish this opening arc didn't feel like it had to try and be a crossover episode, because it never really is, and all the crossover elements feel kind of hokey and forced in, with the exception of Black Lightning in episode 3, and Mia is no different here. It's fun enough. I think it's weirdly placed in the season and would have worked better as an actual premiere rather than something between Armageddon and the next arc, but I don't know. It's weird that this was never confirmed to be a backdoor pilot though, because this feels like a backdoor pilot. Interlude episodes always struggle for me because they're fun and it's hard to be mad at them, but they're frustrating that the pacing of the season comes to a screeching halt and we just have to watch a few episodes where there's not an inkling of a new plot. At least when they used to do filler episodes, you thought maybe there would be something at the end of the episode, but when the showrunner sits down and tells you, hey, the upcoming 2 episodes have nothing going on in them, it's a little unfortunate. At least it ends with some cool Iris time sickness stuff to get you going with that plotline. This is a really solid episode. I love the stuff with Barry and Jacko, and I love that it's a slower and more deliberate start to the next storyline, rather than rushing into it like we've done ever since the beginning of the Forces storyline. Every storyline after that has just rushed into it, giving us all our information immediately. I like that we're able to simmer and have a mystery. The parallels to Barry's own father was so cool, and overall just a really fun time, a really good emotional Barry-focused episode. Like I just said, I've always appreciated the slower pace that this Deathstorm arc took. Building up the mystery and making you wonder what the new antagonist is far more interesting than just showing all of your cards in the first episode like they've done. It's a great episode and has a really awesome climax with Chester. I really love seeing him have to battle off against his father, and I love seeing kind of what amounts to a monster or villain of the week episode with Deathstorm so early. I think it's a really cool, and I love the tone of it. Also really like seeing Iris off in Coast City, you know, with Sue Dearborn and the time sickness stuff. I think right now the show has like 2 concurrent plot lines that are really interesting, and that hasn't happened for a long time. It's cool to have a slower episode during this arc. It does build some more intrigue for the Deathstorm arc and Iris, but the episode's just sort of okay. It's a little too focused on Frost for my liking, and I don't really have much more to say about it. It's actually really crazy how much better this episode is than the one right before it, despite them both being very similar. This one focuses on Caitlin, and it's still very talk heavy, and Barry's disagreeing with one of the Ice Sisters, but the difference here is the dynamic is compelling, with Caitlin genuinely believing that Ronnie is going to come back, but we as an audience know that that's not true. A lot of the dialogue in this episode is just really strong, and Caitlin is a compelling character for once, and for the first time in 8 seasons since season 1. I like the climax a lot too with Deathstorm showing up. It's a really good episode. Deathstorm is just so cool, man. He's literally only in the show for 2 episodes, and the impact he left on me is insane. I love this one a lot. It's a little slow in places, which is why it's not a little bit higher, but it's really, really fun. The climax is sick too at the carnival, and then Barry running on his own lightning has got to be one of the coolest things that's ever happened in the show. This episode, perfect finale for the Deathstorm arc. Deathstorm is so cool. I love all of the grief ghost scenes. Eddie steals the show in this episode, but I especially like how they try and show Barry's mom again, but it just doesn't work for him. So again, Deathstorm just starts taunting with all the people that he's lost, including Oliver. It's It's so cool and so resonant. Deathstorm was a great villain, and this was a great arc. It was a little too focused on Frost, but the ending with her death, I think, paid it off very well. I do wish it had a little bit more with Barry in the final episode, but I don't know. I just love everything else this episode does too much. I think this is one of my favorite storylines of the show. This is honestly such a surprising episode because I never cared for Frost or Caitlin, but this episode is such a great little nugget of character stuff for everyone involved. I love all the little vignettes. I love how all of the characters are reacting to the grief. It feels like a real TV show. I've seen people describe this episode as complete and utter filler, and that doesn't make any sense to me. This is a show that in its last couple seasons has completely lost the plot on how to actually handle its characters. With season 6 excluded, the show has not done anything like this since season 1. I can't see how you would ever view this as filler. This is just spending time with the characters. If you don't like this episode, then you don't like the show anymore. Every time I watch this episode, I love it even more, but I still can't give it anything higher because there's a lot of pacing issues that slow it. It's kind of got the stop and start momentum. It's a fun episode that works so much better on rewatch with complete context of the season, and I think the direction and look of the Still Force is cool as well. And the reveal that Dion's got something going on is also pretty solid. I don't know, it's just an entertaining episode. I love how Nora is involved in it, and I love the escape from the Still Force at the end. Really enjoyable episode. This is such a classic Flash episode. My major issue with this episode is I wish that it had been placed a little bit different in the season. I wish this would have come before Iris disappeared. Maybe make Iris disappear at the end of this one. It's a little too light in tone sometimes for Iris to be missing. But on the other hand, I think it actually handles it well, like with Barry genuinely being scared that he's going to grow too old to forget about Iris. I think that was actually pretty compelling. This kind of reminds me of Snowpack in season 5. The rest of the episode with Allegra sucks. The show should not do Allegra episodes. They always aren't good. But the stuff with Barry and Thawne is fantastic. It's genuinely great coda to Armageddon, and I love where it leads in the rest of the season. Bringing in Matt Lesher's Thawne in this season was such a great idea, and it goes so hard. It's one of the most insane things they've done, but it lends itself to some great writing. I love how seeing this Thawne is, just as obsessive as the Thawne we know, but he's obsessive in his love for Mina as opposed to being obsessive for his hate for Barry. I think it's really, really cool, and the climax is great. Great episode and great beginning to the last chunk of season 8. I used to be lukewarm on this episode, but I think it goes incredibly hard. Like, sure, the negative forces are a little goofy, and some of the subplots are whatever, but I think this is really, really solid. The negative forces get a lot of fun scenes. I love when Barry charges up with lightning and zaps all of them. The final 15 or so minutes just hits, dude. You have no idea what's going on in the show anymore, but you are rolling with the punches. The reveal of Iris zapping through time, all leading her to this exact moment where she would die so that Thawne could be reborn to be the Force's avatar. Nothing that I just said makes any sense, but it goes hard. This is a fantastic ending to one of my favorite seasons of this entire show. The Forces are so cool. I love the way that he and Thawne have a final fight and then they just go through it with using all the Force. Oh, it's so exciting. It's so cool. It's got some of the coolest action in the entire show. I love how it calls back to Armageddon and the realization that any final fight between Barry and Thawne is just going to destroy the entire world. And I love the way that Barry destroys Thawne without lifting a single finger. It's so cool. He sits there and lets his villain destroy himself. That's raw. Great finale to season 8. Great episode. Easily one of my favorite finales and one of my favorite episodes. Now this is way more like it, man. This feels way closer to season 6 in terms of structure and tone and just general quality. All 3 storylines are really well done, and I especially love the finale. I think it's really cool how it feels like a final arc to the entire season instead of its own standalone graphic novel. It ties everything in from Armageddon and the Deathstorm into a really satisfying season finale. Really great season. Massive step up from season 7. The Flash's 9th and final season opens with a pretty fun episode. The drama between Barry and Iris is actually really well done. I like how after multiple seasons of mucking around in time, all Iris wants to do is slow down, but Barry has the opposite appreciation and wants to save her by mapping out their entire future. I think it makes complete sense, and the drama between them is really emotional to watch. The time loop stuff is really fun. I love Captain Boomerang. Altogether, just a really enjoyable episode with a lot of nuance and earnestness to it that I really liked. It's gonna be a great season, right? Okay, this is a really dull episode. It's not terrible. I think Hartley and the Fiddler are okay, and there's some pretty shots in it, but this is probably one of the most bored I've ever been watching the show. There's good color grading and composition, but the main story is whatever. Maybe slightly above average or slightly below. I don't know, man. We're 173 episodes in. What do you want from me? This one's really fun. I like the comedy in it. I think the heist is really cool. And it feels like the storyline is actually interesting and the mystery is becoming compelling in a way that I didn't expect it to become. All of these rogues are so fun, and this is great setup for the arc that we're in. I know it'll deliver, and this is going to be an all-time arc for the show. Oh, it's so boring, man. It's so boring. There's just Expedition, and Red Death sucks, and it has absolutely nothing to say for them. Why do I wake up? No, seriously, why do I wake up? Just to get on my computer and talk about mediocre CW slop? What do you want me to say? This episode sucks? Yeah, it sucks. I've talked for over an hour now about the show and I'm done. I'm over it. The show is over. The actors were too. Did you see Grant Gustin's face in this one? He can't believe the lines that he's reading. Why does the CGI for Grodd look so bad? Why does Red Death have clones? What is it with this show and doing clones over and over and over? The Good, the Bad, and the Lucky. This one should have just been called The Bad. Finally, a somewhat enjoyable episode. It's nothing amazing, and it's still way too Barry light for my enjoyment, but the Irish stuff is solid, and her and Nia get along very well. I don't know why the show is so adamant about doing these dumb crossovers, though, in the final season. Like, I get it, it's the legacy of the Arrowverse and whatever, but what about the legacy of your own show? Have some tact. This episode is solid. It's way better than it should, and it's pretty funny. The subplot with Chester and Allegra sucks, though, but Barry and Iris make up for it, and I like there's some genuine drama about Iris being scared about being pregnant. This feels very similar to episode 1 of the season in that it's fun, entertaining, and enjoyable, but also has a really good amount of earnest character work for it. I wish this was the way the rest of the season was, but at least we've only got 5 episodes left of the show. Bravo, Flash. You did it. You turned in one of the coolest and most epic episodes of TV I have ever seen. Where do I even start? Ramsey's return is awesome. Wally is finally treated like the character he should have been all along. Barry Allen dies and wakes up in purgatory. The entire episode is so well thought out and crafted, and Oliver's return, the thing you think should be the headliner of the episode, is just the cherry on the top. This feels like the finale to an arc that we never got. Why did we waste so much time with Red Death when we could have gotten an arc about Ramsey showing up and wanting to infect the multiverse with his cells and end it with Oliver showing back up at the end? That's the perfect way to start out your final season. I'm so mad that we... Hey, did you forget this was the final season of The Flash? Don't worry, the show did too. Luckily, it's decided to cram all of its sentiment into the last 4 episodes of the show, and I'm eating it up like a monkey in front of jingling keys. Between the time travel premise, Thawne's return, and the dynamic between him and Barry, as well as the emotional moments between Barry and his family, this is such a terrific episode. One of the best episodes of the entire show, hands down. I really don't know how this is in the same season as something like Mask of the Red Death Part 2, or The Good, the Bad, and the Lucky. It's a really cool idea on paper to do a 2-part episode where both parts feel like twins of each other. Part 1 dealing with Barry lost in time, and part 2 with us seeing the characters react to it. It's cool enough, and there's cool parallels between Barry and Iris, like seeing the moment in each other's perspectives, but I don't know. It's good enough, I guess. There's some okay moments. It builds tension for the rest of the arc, but moving on. This episode's solid. It's got some dumb stuff. First of all, I will say everything with Cecile is pretty bad. But once I look past that, I really, really enjoy it. It reminds me a lot of the fourth part of Armageddon, where you kind of have to fast forward through any of the stuff you don't like because the stuff I like is way too good. A lot of great character moments, an awesome fight scene between Barry and the negative Speed Force possessed version of his daughter, and there's great dramatic tension between Eddie and Barry. I think the tension is finally perfect for a final season. It really does feel like things are about to go down. I really, really love how Eddie finally gives Barry, just what for, and talks about how he doesn't feel like he was given his recognition for literally killing himself. I think it's compelling. This is the perfect finale for the show for me. I don't care what anyone says. It's an episode all about raising good over evil. It's about breaking down the barrier that is trauma and stopping a cycle from repeating. The Speed Force and its negative side have constantly tormented Barry from a young age, and he can't feed into it anymore. Not as he's finally bringing his own daughter into the world. It's a story about growing up and making choices you can to create the best world for your child to live in. And it's also about slamming action figures together with bad CGI. You can have both. I don't even know what to say, man. Such a disappointing final season. I really do love the final 5 or so episodes, but up until then, it's such a lukewarm slog. The occasional fun episode can't balance out the wasted potential. It feels like we spent so much doing nothing in the final season, just a baffling decision all around. I really don't like this one. There you have it, all 184 episodes of The Flash reviewed. If you want more in-depth thoughts, check out my videos Legacy of the Flash and Decay of the Flash, where I break down the entire show talking about individual storylines and characters. I'm thinking next, I should talk about another CW show in this format. Maybe one with twice the seasons, maybe one called